Hello, divas and dudes. So nice to have you. Our last time at Powerhouse Bakery on Golden Quail. And I just say it's really the next chapter of Power going in another house. Okay? I just know that we're going to get to do lots of classes together, and hopefully we'll still do some cooking together. And of course, the nutrition classes I still get to be a part of. So I'm so happy about that. So no tears. And so today, what I wanted to do was kind of a flashback, fun class with cinnamon rolls. And if you were at the last one, you might remember that we, for the sugar-free version, we rolled it out, we folded it, and it was a little bit cumbersome. So I came up with another version that hopefully will be even easier for you to do at home. So every time we do some production here at Powerhouse Bakery, I want you to always think about how it's going to fit into your best foods list, and how can you make it something that really fits into your lifestyle. And you probably know by now my favorites are not always the non-nutritives, the diet sweeteners. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those ingredients and help us decide kind of where are they going to fit in a healthy diet. Because I feel like keto foods like the keto cinnamon rolls have some good components, right? It's low in sugar, low in carbs, especially if you have a tendency for high blood sugar. But if you're living your anti-cancer way of life, is it good to take out sugar and put in a chemical? So that's always a challenge that we struggle with. So as you know, we also make a vegan cinnamon roll that uses organic sugar, still very small amount, and you know those are really good too. This one's probably a little easier because it doesn't require a yeast dough, but they're also just fabulous. So what I wanted to do is show you the recipe, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how we make these products work into your healthy lifestyle, and then we're going to get to build them, and I'll show you all the wonderful ingredients. So the first thing we want to do is think about what is a keto dish versus a regular dish. So everything we do is gluten-free. Do I think that gluten is bad for you? No. Some people have an allergy to gluten, so that's for sure a reason to be gluten-free. And really, I mean, we know that wheat products are so high in protein. So if we're trying to eat a diet that's high in protein, should we take out all gluten? No. In fact, my favorite bread, Food for Life, they were out of my favorite green label one. It's called a sesame. Anybody get that one? Yeah? Well, my HB was out of that one. And I did get the Genesis, but I know that I like that sesame one. So Todd and I decided we would try a seed and grain gluten-free bread. It was not nearly as good. It was dry, it was light, it wasn't hearty. So gluten-free does not mean healthy, and keto does not mean healthy. But what we want to do is think about our best foods list. Because when we look at our own personal diet, we want to decide how are we going to go from good to great. Because your foods that you like are good. There's no doubt about it. How do we make them great? Well, we look at the way that the food is cooked. You guys know this. What else? The portion and the company that it keeps. I always talk about these components to make your best foods go from good to great. So if there is a recipe that's keto, we know that that means it's sugar-free, low carb, but that also means it could be what? High in fat. So one version of this recipe will be lower in butter. So I'm going to show you how to do that in the recipe. So, you know, gluten-free isn't necessary, but it could be valuable for some people. Keto isn't necessary, but it could be valuable for some people. And so really what I want us to do is know how we can adjust a recipe to really fit into our best foods. Because, you know, the process of cooking is always going to add something to it, right? We're going to cook in oil. Of course, a recipe is going to have its certain ingredients. So sometimes taking away fat means you're going to cook it differently. The portion is something that's always been really valuable to me. Is how do we make sure that we don't overdo portion? And what I've done in our new little cinnamon roll, you'll see instead of rolling them out, I've decided to put them in these beautiful little cupcake sizes. So portion is so built in. Instead of having a big pan of maybe a cinnamon roll coffee cake, where you can cut any size you want and then it's just sitting there staring at you and maybe you want a second piece and it's so easy to go grab a little more. This gives you a nice finite amount. So you stop because it's done and then you realize, gosh, I actually feel fine. I don't really need a bigger piece. So built-in portion size is something that I really love. And then you'll see that the recipe is designed to have really good company. So usually company means what do you eat with a cinnamon roll? In this case, too, it's the flavors that add all kinds of pizzazz so that it really is a great standalone. What would you normally have with a cinnamon roll? Tea, coffee, got milk, right? So, you can really have tea and coffee without any added sugars, especially when you have something on the sweetish side. And of course, this term goes with so many other food types. One of my favorites is a potato. The way we cook a potato, the way we portion out a potato, and the company that it keeps can make that one food go from a really healthy baked potato or maybe 2 or 3 small red potatoes, healthy part of maybe a baked or maybe roasted red potato, and we have 3 to 4, like I mentioned, or a fist-sized potato. And then the company that we keep with a potato could be what? Maybe some fish fillet, maybe some steamed broccoli. Now, fast forward to the typical American. How do they serve a potato? All right, French fries. They deep fry it. They have the biggie. And then they have it with maybe a milkshake and a burger. So, it really is a great example. Same thing with a cinnamon roll. Who knows of the traditional cinnamon, like Cinnabon, right? What size is that? Huge. The bigger the better, right? And it's got so much sugar in it that it just becomes a really unhealthy item. So I love the fact that we truly can make a healthy cinnamon roll that is part of an anti-cancer way of life, and it really is something that we can put into our best foods list. So now what I want to do is go through the recipe. And of course, at Powerhouse Bakery, we make big batches. So I want you to take notes because this is going to be a nice small batch. And just like anything, we always break down the ingredients into dry and wet and then the fats. We always mix those separately. So I'm going to have my handy dandy assistant, Miss Anita. She's going to help me translate from grams to ounces so you can have it in both. But you see I've got my scale. Whether you have it on ounces or grams, it's really nice to build your recipe as you go with your scale. So, you can make it really specific, but also it's really handy. You don't always have to get out a measuring tool. You can use the scale. So here we go. Dry ingredients of the keto cinnamon roll. So it has 2 flours, and if it's keto, which flours are grain-free? Yes, almonds, coconut, bam, the first 2. So almond flour and coconut flour. So in my recipe, 169 grams is what it calls for almond flour. And Anita, what is that in ounces? Dun, dun, dun. 52 grams of coconut flour. So 169 to 52. So a lot more almond flour, right, than coconut flour. And I want you to see the products that I use because I think it matters so much with almond flour especially. What the density is, the grind. So this one, awesome. We've been buying the H-E-B brand for a long time. It's great. It's kind of a medium fine grind, and then coconut flour varies too. So this one, and I'll let you smell it and kind of look at it, but it's a really fine grind, so I love it. Sometimes you get some that are too coarse, and it will really change the way it's absorbing.
Okay, it says it's 5.96, so I just say 6 ounces.
Okay, there we go. So 6 ounces of almond flour, and what about coconut?
You said 52.
52.5.
1.9, so 2 ounces.
2 ounces. Thank you. And then we have sweetener. So I'm doing it like this in quotes because it calls for 49.5 grams, 49.5 grams. And if you don't want to use the non-nutritives, could we use something else? Sure. Most of them do a 1-to-1 pretty well. And so the Swerve is the one that I really like. It is non-nutritive. Anybody use this one? Yeah, it's really good. It's got a really good flavor. But the downside is it is going to have some of the sugar alcohols. So it says it measures like sugar, tastes like sugar. It's gluten-free, diabetes friendly, bakes like sugar, it's non-glycemic. What do we mean by non-glycemic?
Doesn't raise your blood.
Yeah, it doesn't raise your blood sugar. What's really tricky about that term is the meal is what's key, not one ingredient. So this, even though it's non-nutritive, it can still raise somebody's blood sugar. Now, not as much as something that has a lot of sugar in it, but I always like to warn you. And then it says it's tummy friendly and it's keto friendly. Okay? And then when I go to ingredients, it has erythritol, it has a prebiotic oligosaccharide, vegetable glycerin, which is a fruit juice concentrate for color, and natural flavors. So tummy friendly should really be in quotes because erythritol is a sugar alcohol that can sometimes cause sensitivity. Now, it's not quite as bad as xylitol, so I think that's why they're getting away with that. But that's kind of a new term because we didn't used to have a problem with tummy with sugar, right? So the other one that could be as a variation, this one I really like. So this is a whole cane sugar. It's organic secant. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Now this one is going to have the same measuring 1-to-1 of sugar, but it definitely has some sugars. It has 7 grams of sugar, I'm just reading the label here, in 2 teaspoons. It has 30 calories per 2 teaspoons. Is that the same as regular sugar? Yes. Yes, so 2 teaspoons, 30 calories, 7 grams of sugar. Of sugar. So what makes this one a good choice is more natural. It's not a diet sweetener. It still has a caloric value. Is it good for an anti-cancer way of life? I think so. It's not highly refined. It's not bleached white sugar. We know that bleached white sugar is a health detractor. Whenever we have an organic sweetener, though, there's some value to it. It's got a little bit of minerals. You know, I've talked a lot about coconut sugar being a great option because it has some nutritional value to it, whereas white sugar doesn't. So, you know, I think this one's not bad. This is another one. This is the ideal. So we do really like this one in baking because it seems to have a great flavor and it's not quite as wet as this one. So it works in a 1-to-1. And this one's really expensive. Actually, they both are, but this is about $8. This is about $6.50. So they're not cheap. But, you know, again, when I look at the label, xylitol is a natural sweetener found in fruits and vegetables, but in very small amounts. So don't let that kid you. Xylitol, yeah, maybe, but tiny amounts. This is super concentrated. Your body produces xylitol every day, but again, that's very misleading because your body doesn't make much. Because of xylitol, Ideal bakes more like sugar than the leading no-calorie sweetener. Clinical studies show that xylitol may provide health benefits. That's pretty much a stretch. Mm-hmm. Health benefits meaning what? Well, that it is better for diabetics because it doesn't give them a blood sugar surge. So that's really pushing their limits. I'm actually shocked that they're allowed to put that on there, and it might just be because nobody's blown the whistle on them yet. But that's a pretty bold thing to say. It definitely gives you a website to learn more about it, and the ingredients are xylitol and maltodextrin and sucralose. Okay. But again, we do like this. We use it for our keto products, so you know it has some benefits for sure. Okay, on to the next ingredient of our dry ingredients. All right, Miss Anita, we have our flaxseed, 27 grams.
So on the sweetener, it was 1.7.
Oh, thank you.
So that one I didn't round because that's what it was.
Yeah, thank you. So 27 grams of flax. And with this one, I really 1 ounce. Okay, thank you. 1 ounce. So here is the one that we're using, and I know it's a big container, but I actually rather you buy the whole seeds and grind them as you go. Flaxseed does get kind of, I hate to say it, rancid, but loses some of its good qualities. This smells fantastic, so it's still in really good shape. Airtight container, you could keep it in the fridge. We don't, because we go through it so fast. Now that, I'm not cooking as much anymore, this is definitely going to be stored in the fridge. But you can always tell by smelling. If it has a really nice fresh smell, it's just fine. But you always want to make sure that you maintain all the volatile essential fats, and of course you can do that if you keep it in the whole seed and then grind it as you go. Some people ask, well, can I eat the whole flax seed and get the same benefits? What do you think?
I don't think so, 'cause it's not, you need to get to the inside.
Yeah, you seniors know. Yeah, I mean, it's hard for our body to break it down. And so it's nice to have some whole seed. Now it's going to be a good insoluble fiber, and that's a great thing too for our healthy gut. But I would suggest if you're going to have flaxseed, plan to grind at least half of what you use. Some could be whole. Like if you're going to decorate the outside of something, flax is great for that. It makes it really pretty. A lot of breads have it on the top. So it's a nice one. But in this one, it's flaxseed meal. Okay, and then the other items are kind of your basic baking ingredients. Baking powder, salt, and xanthan gum. So baking powder, powder and salt. And xanthan gum. So baking powder needs an activator. So that's going to show up in our wet ingredients. So 9 grams goes to 0.3 of an ounce. And salt is 6 grams if we're doing a big batch.
0.2.
Goes to 0.2. And then the xanthan is 4.5 grams, goes to 0.16 ounce. Yeah, cool. So those of you that are baking experts, baking powder needs to be kind of activated to do its job. Can you see it okay, Miss Maria? It needs an acid, right? So like if you're making cornbread or pancakes, we know we need to have a little vinegar in order to get it going. Pancakes are so good if you use yogurt because it has some of the acidity that pops up and makes it extra bubbly and lovely. So baking powder always does better with an acid. Okay, so that is our dry ingredients. You got all that written down. Now the next part is going to be the wet ingredients. I'm going to put them right up here because there's not too many of them. And I want to kind of keep them all together because we're going to assemble as we go. Okay, so this is dry and wet. So in keto dishes, we know that they're high in fat. What are they also kind of known for? Being high in protein. So this one's going to have lots of eggs. In this particular serving size, which again is pretty small, it's a quarter of what we normally make. 3 eggs and 60 grams of Greek yogurt plain. So grams of yogurt goes to
2.1.
Okay, 2.1 ounces, and then water is 82.5 grams of water.
So 3 ounces.
3 ounces, okay? And so that's the wet ingredients. We could add vanilla extract if we wanted to add a little flavor. You could add coffee if you want to make a mocha cinnamon roll, which I love. You could add any flavor, vanilla, lemon, amaretto. So any extract could be in there in that wet ingredients. And then the last item to add at the very end is butter. So this is the one where I'm going to put a little asterisk because I've made these many times without the butter. Tastes great. and you're cutting out quite a significant amount of calories. So 42.5 grams of butter goes to
1.5 ounces.
Okay. So yeah, it's really nice to take it out if you want. So where else is the recipe getting the fats? Of course here, a little bit here. I mean, I think we're using Greek plain. I don't think it's non-fat plain, but you get the idea. This has 2 grams of fat. So yeah, I mean, it definitely is nice to see where you can cut a few extra fat grams out if you're trying to make this fit in your best foods list, knowing that you don't want to have more fat than you need. So I like that. It's an easy variation. Okay, so now I'm going to switch it around. And we're going to do the toppings. So we've got a filling and we've got a topping. So the filling is going to be lots of cinnamon. And in this recipe, I really like that we have so much cinnamon that it really kind of balances having not very much sweetness. So I like that. So it's a third, we don't have to measure this one with our grams, a third of a cup of butter and half a cup of sugar. I'm going to put it in quotes because we can use our non-nutritives there if we want. And then look at this, a quarter cup of cinnamon. That's a lot, right? But it makes it really good. Look how thick and beautiful this is. So it's got some sweetness, it's got some rich creamy, and of course lots of cinnamon. And if we wanted to make this dairy-free, could we do that?
Yes.
Absolutely. Which one do we have to change? Butter. Easy peasy, right? We could do a vegan butter. So no trouble at all. We oftentimes have people that are on a keto diet and they can't have dairy. And boy, does that cut out a lot of options. Our keto bun works great because it's dairy-free. But then the downside is it has a lot of eggs. So doing vegan keto is really challenging. What do you think they would be eating a lot of vegan keto? Vegan keto. Seeds and nuts, baby. Lots of seeds and nuts, right? To get their protein and to keep it low carb. Of course, we would still eat vegetables if we are a vegan keto, but yeah. And they probably aren't going to try to measure their urine to be in ketosis, although it would be possible. My hubby over there can go through several cups of almonds in a day, and he's pretty much vegan. So, he's getting his protein, his fiber, his satiety factor from all those almonds. And yeah, so he's almost there. Okay, so now we've got our topping for this wonderful recipe. And it's going to have some cream cheese. And it's going to have about 4 ounces. And then it's going to have some butter, about 2 ounces. And here's some sour cream. This is really the way I always make my keto frosting too, is with this little ratio. And I love the fact that it works on the cinnamon rolls too. And then whatever you want to sweeten with. Okay, so again, we're going to use the non-nutritive so you can kind of see it. But it's pretty simple. And, even if you don't have the exact amounts, you can kind of work with your texture to see what you're looking for as far as, notice how thick the topping is. But it's really nice because when you're putting it on a hot cinnamon roll, it's nice for it to be kind of thick. So now what I want to do is kind of show you how all of these work together to make a fantastic cinnamon roll. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I just baked these off. So we are going to decorate them up. And then we're going to kind of work backwards so you can see how we use all these ingredients and build as we go. So again, I decided to do them in these little cupcake holders because they travel so nicely like this, and they're really easy to make. You don't have to worry about rolling them out and getting the right thickness, and so it's just been super fun. So here is my sour cream frosting. So I can use a spoon or I can use a little scooper. It's fun though because I can just put a little top hat on there, and these have cooled down a little bit, but it's still really nice. So I'm just going to kind of dress it up a little bit. And I've been selling these to customers that come in and they see our sign and they're like, what, you guys are closing? And I'm like, yeah, but look, we have some treats for you. So they're like, okay, we won't leave empty handed with a sad face. So I'm just kind of dabbling. I was thinking, as I was making these earlier, there's so many ways we could add to this. When we get to this spot, we could add nuts on top. We could add a little sprinkle of coconuts. We could do the mighty seeds, so a little bit of hemp hearts, a little bit of flax. There's so many ways to make them even more fancy and pretty. In fact, I have this decorative sugar that is so fun. It just adds a little crunch. A cinnamon roll needs a little crunch. And the ones that are made with the grain-free flour blends don't really, have crispy edges. Doesn't that sound so good? So I just put a little bit of this sugar. And they make this one non-nutritive as well. This one is organic sucant again, so it's just an organic sugar. But even if you're trying to do the non-nutritives mainly and you do a little bit on top, I still call that low carb. That's much lower than normal, right? And we always say that if your specialty recipe doesn't taste good, well, forget about it. It's always got to taste good and be healthy. Otherwise, nobody's going to eat it. So that is the finished product. I think they're absolutely gorgeous, and I'm going to pull them out so that you can sample them because they are so cute. They pull out easily. They come right out of the papers, and so it's been a lot of fun to do this little variation. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is build with our dough. So this is the dough that I've made. So look, it's pretty thick. It's pretty dense. It's kind of sticky. And again, this is what we worked with when we were, trying to roll them out and really make sure that they were a cinnamon roll style. But I'm going to cheat and use a scooper. So I basically put half at the base, and then I'm going to put the cinnamon in next and bake it off. So it still becomes the same weight. So even if I package these and sell them, at my next farmer's market, everything still matches because, the ounces I can match just perfectly. So I'm just going to fill my little containers here. And, sometimes it's fun to use bright colors and just have a theme to your papers. It just gives you so many more options. These little scoopers are great. You can buy them at Sur La Table, and I love the fact that they have a really high quality squeeze. So I think you can probably buy them at H-E-B or Target, but make sure they have a nice strong little center spring because you will get so much use out of these. It's the same one that I use for making our savory dishes when I want to add a dollop of Powerhouse Bakery cheese, or I want to add other little toppings to meat dishes, our Chilean meatballs. I do a scoop of our sauce and spicy dipping. All right, so we got all of these ready to go. The next thing I'm going to do is put in my cinnamon roll filling. So here's this beautiful, fairly stiff. I'm going to do a little scoop. Just press it in there. So easy. And then I'm going to do another scoop of the dough right on top of it, and it's just going to lock it in. The first time I made this, I actually didn't have the second layer on it, and it works out fine that way too. So, if you forget or you don't want to put that on there, I tell you another idea I was imagining is to put fruit in this stage, because you could put some frozen blueberries right in this little right in that little hole that you make with the dough, and you can put your next scoop of the keto cinnamon roll dough right on top, and it'll bake right in. I'm going to try that at home because I feel like I'm probably going to have some extra dough after class, and if you guys don't want to take it home with you, I'm going to be experimenting. Now I tell you, this dough looks almost the same if you take out the butter. It's fabulous. So, just if you wanted to do that, it's so forgiving, and the almond flour and the coconut flour are pretty hearty. So that's why, you don't even really have to change the other ingredients, just leaving out the butter, and that saves you about 20% of the fat in the recipe. Which, doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up. Anybody want to guess at how many fat grams we should have in a day? About 60, 40 to 60, depending on how many calories. So it goes fast. It goes fast. How many fat grams are in one egg? 5. And normally we have more than one egg. Sometimes we're going to cook it in a little oil. We might have a swipe of butter on our toast, or heaven forbid, an avocado. So breakfast could easily become 15 to 20 grams of fat right there. Right? So it adds up fast. So this is ready to pop in the oven, and I just kind of nestled them together. Again, it doesn't have to be too official. You saw how those were kind of a mix of the cinnamon and the baked dough, and it just looks so cute. So those go into the oven. Put this in your notes, 375 for probably about 8 minutes. Just check it. If it's hot and bubbly, it's ready to go. And you'll pull them out, let them cool, and then top them. Okay, so now let's make some of this ingredient. So you'll see how we mix together the main dough. And I'm going to have you read off ingredients to me. And here I've got my handy dandy scale. So if you don't already have one of these, experiment. Just get a good quality one and see if you like building your recipe as you tear it. So what I'm going to do is I turn it on, and whatever bowl I'm adding to the top, I just push tear, and so it goes back to 0. And then all of my ounces or grams are going to go right in, and then they'll go into my main bowl. So my dry ingredients first, I'm going to mix it really well, and I'm going to have my wet ingredients, mix those really well. The very last, we might decide, do we put butter in or do we not? Add that together as well. Okay? All right, so tear it to ounces. All right, Miss Anita, what is my first item to add?
So are we doing wet then? Or wet?
We'll do dry. Yeah, I know I went backwards there. So you're going to have to go to almond flour
So
first.
Flour, and what do you have it set at? 6 ounces? Am I telling you ounces or grams?
You pick. Which one do you want us to do?
Let's do ounces.
You got it. Because it's going to be the same, right? So whatever you're most comfortable with. So I've got it on 0, and you tell me how many. 6 ounces. So I'm just going to start adding it in. I'm watching my scale. 2. I'm going to help it out a little bit. And you know what's interesting? I'm not really good at looking at grams and going, oh yeah, that's about right. Are you? Do you guys work in grams in your kitchen? I sure don't. Right? Yeah, me too. So it was 6 ounces exactly, right?
Well, I kept rounding up.
That's fine. 6 ounces. So I'm at 625, so I'm going to have to put a little bit back. But I want you to see what grams looks like. Okay, now I went turning over. There we go. So 6 ounces. All right, so tell me again, this is 6 ounces and 16 grams, right? You have to tell me how many grams. I can't see it from here. 116. There we go. See how I'm like 169 grams. And so I love that. I didn't get to go to school learning grams. So, it helps me see 169 grams is similar to 6 ounces. Well, exactly right. Okay, so almond flour in. Next ingredient is coconut. And this one's much less, right? Because it's mainly almond flour. So how much almond flour?
2 ounces.
2 ounces. There's 1 ounce. And 175. And 2. So there you go. Coconut goes in. All right, now we're on to flax. All right, how much flax, ma'am?
1 ounce.
1 ounce. So how many things do you guys use flax for? People always go, what do you do with that? But smoothies, but I'm not a big fan of smoothies, right? I always poo-poo those because you can't chew them, right? So what should we put our flax on?
I use it in my
Cereal.
Yes, cereal, yogurt, muffins, meatloaf, meatballs, lentils. I put them in anything I can think of because it's kind of tasteless. You can even put them in eggs. When we make the eggs and greens frittata, I put mint, basil, flax, chia, and hemp. And you don't even notice them, but it is adding not only satiety because of the healthy fats and fiber, but it's also adding protein and minerals and so much to it. So I really love to add in the flax wherever you can. And you know, even though I'm kind of a naysayer of smoothies, that's kind of how all of these seeds and, you know, powders kind of found their way into our kitchen, was because of a smoothie. And so sure, we can do smoothies, especially when I have a customer or a client that's not feeling well and they're not able to get in enough calories. Sometimes a smoothie will help. Now, warning, sometimes a smoothie will cause your tummy to be more upset. And again, because chewing is so important. Chewing really initiates the whole digestion process. So, you know, you have to kind of see where your comfort level is. And that's where your best foods list is so critical, because it might be just fine for you. I have a young guy, brain cancer. We were really trying to get weight on him, and he's doing great with smoothies. He's 18, he's got a healthy body, and so we're really working on that for him. Okay, so flax, what's next, my dear?
Did you do the sweetener?
No, not yet. Did I pass up sweetener?
Yes.
Thank you. Watch out, watch out.
Which one are you gonna use?
You guys get to pick. Which one should we use? Swerve. Swerve is so good. That one's not open yet.
No.
Let's do Swerve.
What if we do half and half?
Which you totally can.
Yeah, right.
Because so many of these now are really worked into the 1-to-1. So they try to, you know, find their way into any recipe. So I like that.
Yeah.
All right, how much am I putting in? 1.7. Got it. 1 point. And I always say, you know, these sugars are so pricey, they really make you think twice about how much sweetness do I really need. So there's a 1.7. All right, we already did flax, and now we're the leavening agents, baking powder. Put that over here. Move my little thing aside. Of course, Powerhouse Bakery never does anything small, so look how huge this baking powder container is. I'll be giving away baking powder for the rest of my life if I don't really get cooking again.
Sell them in bags. Put them in bags.
Right?
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. And see, what's nice about using the scale, I didn't even have to get a measuring spoon out.
Yeah.
It's so fun. So whether I do ounces or the grams. Okay, and how much am I? 0.3. She's getting fast now. She's anticipating. All right, that was a tiny bit over. There we go. All right, 0.3. All right, what's next?
Salt, 0.2.
Salt. Did we run off with the salt? I bet we did. Anita, will you find it in back on the shelf all the way back? Thank you. All right, xanthan gum. All right. And again, you don't need much. Thank you. Appreciate you. Okay, let's do the xanthan, and that is 0.16. 0.1516. Okay, so what does xanthan gum do? Yes, it binds it together. It gives it a little bit of texture. Now that bread I was telling you about that I was so disappointed in, they used white starchy flours with no protein, and they didn't add any healthy fillers that had some texture and minerals, so it was really airy. And then they added xanthan gum, so it was just a terrible texture. And that's the whole reason why I think gluten-free food gets such a bad reputation, because there was no finesse in that recipe. All right, and now the salt. And what are we looking at? 0.2. Okay, that was a little much. I know, right? You saw me on the table. Yes. I could have just thrown it over my shoulder and had good luck, right?
Right.
Well, and I want you to know I've been really researching salt. A while back, I learned from a customer about the brown salts and the sea salt. And so I really do love using a Himalayan and sea salt whenever I can. The fact is we have about 4 of these still in the back, so I've been trying to use them up. But yeah, experiment, because I do think there's something to this about let's not bleach our salt in the same way we say let's not bleach our sugar. I feel like there's something there. And I know there's some research that, will kind of go both ways, but I feel like it's worth trying. So is that everything for my dry ingredients? All right. So I'm just going to stir these up. So it's very nice texture, and it has such a good smell. If you have not worked with coconut flour, it just smells so fresh. Almond flour is nice too. It's not quite as aromatic, but yeah, so that's a beautiful texture and ready to go. All right, now on to the wet ingredients. And I know for sure I have eggs. I'm actually gonna borrow this bowl. So I'm gonna move this guy over because we've already played with our fresh dough. Yeah, the eggs are there, I believe. Yeah, right here by me. Just want to reuse my bowl. No sense in having another dish to wash. Okay. So we're going to do our 3 eggs. Now we learned an interesting trick. I know, isn't that fun? That's Todd Ryman right there. Yeah. Oh, it splattered too, didn't it? So we had an interesting note this morning's class that if you get a shell in, which I didn't, thank goodness, but if you drop a shell into your egg, you're supposed to be able to use the shell and it easily grabs it. Now, and honestly, I don't think it works very well. Maybe I didn't catch it the right way, but it's a Rachel Ray trick. This morning's class, it did seem to work. It's like supposed to go home. And it seemed like it did go home and went right into the right spot. But, the idea is if you're able to break them in one bowl and put them into your big batch, it's so good because nobody wants to bite onto a shell. That is nasty, right? Okay, so rest of my wet ingredients, I know I'm going to have Greek yogurt. And how much do I need?
2.1 ounces.
2.1. That's little. Right? It really does. So here, I'm gonna tear my bowl that I already have my eggs in. So now I don't have to dirty up another bowl, and I'm just gonna do the amount that I need of my yogurt. Now I can't put it back, right? So I have to be really careful. 2 ounces.
So is that a 2% yogurt?
Yes. Okay, so I'm at 1.7. Perfect. I got so lucky there, didn't I? Okay, what's next?
Water.
Water. 3 ounces of water. And I just happen to have water right here. 3 ounces. And I'm going to tare it again. I'm on ounces. 1, 2. I'm going to need about 3 drops. Oh, okay, maybe 4 drops. It's at 2.6. There we go. 3. Perfect. All right, what else do I need in my wet ingredients? I know I've got some apple cider vinegar. Right, and then the butter. So apple cider vinegar and then flavor. So I brought out the vanilla, so we can certainly add that in. So I'm just mixing the eggs and making sure they're nicely mixed. It's got a little chunks of the yogurt, but that's fine. It's going to cook in. So apple cider vinegar to activate the baking powder, and then a little bit of vanilla. So let's just put in just a dab, maybe at half a teaspoon. And apple cider vinegar, how much did it ask for?
Did you say apple cider vinegar?
I didn't?
No.
Well, I lied then. I missed it. I'm so sorry.
You had said an activator, but then you never.
I went past it, didn't I? 22.5 grams is bum ba bum.
22.5?
Mm-hmm.
0.8.
0.8. All right, 0.8. I'm gonna put it in here just so I can Make sure I don't do too much. And I'm going to tear it out again. And 0.8, see, because that is a lot. All right, and I'm going to go back here. Tear it. And 0.8. And perfect. All right, boy, I got lucky on that one too. All right, so now we're gonna add them together. Did I miss any other ingredients? At least that are listed, right? Sorry about that.
Butter, if you want to.
So we're gonna put the butter in after we mix it together. So yeah, we can decide if we want it in or not. And I want you to get to taste these, and then we can decide if we want to put the butter in. The morning group went the other way. They got to sample the ones without the butter, and they loved it. They couldn't even tell a difference. So I like that. So let me show you how the batter is looking, because it's nice and easy to work with. Unlike the leavening one, the cinnamon rolls that require, the yeast, this one just mixes right up. So easy. And you saw when we were dishing it up earlier that it is pretty thick. The more you let the dough sit, it does get a little thicker too, because the moisture really gets absorbed. All right, so see, that looks really good.
That scale. How
Yeah.
you can reset it.
I know.
with
I love
everything
it.
I
in
have
there
one
to
from
ready.
Amazon. It's like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I call
Yeah.
it reset. You call it.
Tear. I mean, and I love that you can wash this off.
Yeah.
We did 170 cookies for Thrivewell, Mary and I, earlier today. And, you can put some plastic on it. But the nice thing is you can wash it. Now, what has happened that's not good, I've lost 2, I guess, because if you drop it, it's history. It just, it breaks the internal workings. But I think it was $40. So, it's really not bad. Really not bad. So do I even have any butter on here? Yes. Let's go ahead and put a little butter in. How much did it call for if we wanted to add it in? 1.7 ounce. So let's see. This is not going to be quite enough. Should we put it in, or do you want me to leave it out? Choices. Put it in. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
This side of the room, put it
So,
out, tube it out.
1.7.
That's what you got.
Well, see,
Yeah, right,
there you go. And I had 1.55.
See?
There you go.
Meant to be. Meant to be. Perfect. Because really, watch, I'm just going to work it in, and it doesn't really change it that much. I was going to give you out spoons so you could sample it. I always say you got to sample your dough. Make sure it's good.
Now, is that unsalted butter?
Yeah, it is. And the morning group, one of them said it tasted salty because she said she's really sensitive to salt. But of course, we do add salt, so you could leave it out. I mean, the salt really doesn't have a chemical rationale to be in there, so it's not obligatory to have it. So there you are. So same thing. Now, I didn't show you how to make these, but the ingredients are there, and it's really the same process. Just mix them together. It's so easy. You could even get all these made and then bring it out in a week and have it with your family and friends in the morning of. This freezes really well too. Just put it into a ball and freeze it and pull it out. Here what we've done is we've made the whole thing in that spot and frozen there. Because then you just get to grab and go. You can let them thaw on the counter. You could pop them into a toaster oven. You can't really do a microwave if you're using the little metallic ones, but a toaster oven, so good. So good. Okay, so let's have some cinnamon rolls.